The Home Secretary made an error of judgment, but she recognised that, she raised the matter, and she accepted her mistake. And that's why I was delighted to welcome back into a united cabinet that brings experience and stability to the heart of government. And let me tell you, Mr. Speaker, what the Home Secretary will be focused on. She'll be focused on cracking down on criminals, on defending our borders, while the party opposite remains soft on crime and in favour of unlimited immigration.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the Prime Minister stood on the steps of Downing Street and promised integrity, professionalism and accountability. But then, with his first act, he appointed a Home Secretary who was sacked by his predecessor a week ago for deliberately pinging around sensitive Home Office documents from her personal account. Far from soft on crime, I ran the Crown Prosecution Service for 5 years. I worked with Home Secretaries to take on terrorists and serious organised crime. And I know firsthand how important it is that we have a Home Secretary whose integrity and professionalism are beyond question. So, have officials raised concerns about his decision to appoint her?
Mr. Speaker, I just addressed the issue with the Home Secretary, but he talked about fighting crime. I would hope, Mr. Speaker, I would hope that he would welcome. I would hope that as we look forward, he would welcome the news today that there are over 15,000 new police officers on our street. And the Home Secretary will be supporting them to tackle burglaries. While the party opposite will be backing the lunatic protesting fringe that are stopping working people going about their lives.
Keir Starmer.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I listened carefully. That was clearly not a no. We can all see what's happened here. He's so weak, he's done a grubby deal, trading national security because he was scared to lose another leadership election. There's a new Tory at the top, but as always with them, party first, country second. Yesterday, on the steps of Downing Street, he also admitted what the whole country knows. The Tories have crashed the economy and now somebody has to pay for their mess. I say it shouldn't be working people who've been hammered time and again by this lot, but those with the broadest shoulders must step up. Does he agree?
No. Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable gentleman talked about party first and country second. Perhaps he could explain to us why it was a few years ago he was supporting the member for Islington North. Mr. Speaker, my record is clear. When times are difficult in this country, I will always protect the most vulnerable. That is the values of our compassionate party. We did it in COVID and we will do that again.
Mr. Speaker, he says he'll protect the most vulnerable. Let's test that. The government currently allows very rich people to live here but register abroad for tax purposes. I don't need to explain to the Prime Minister how non-dom status works. He already knows all about that. It costs the Treasury £3.2 billion every year. Why doesn't he put his money where his mouth is and get rid of it?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I have been honest. We will have to take difficult decisions to restore economic stability and confidence. And my honourable friend, the Chancellor, will set that out at an autumn statement in just a few weeks. But what I can say, as we did during COVID, we will always protect the most vulnerable. We will do this in a fair way. But what I can say, I am glad, Mr. Speaker, that the party opposite, the honourable gentleman, has finally realised that spending does need to be paid for. Party opposite. This government is going to restore economic stability and we will do it in a fair and compassionate way.
No answer.
I know he's been away for a few weeks, but he should have listened.
After this heated exchange in Parliament, the political tension between Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer becomes impossible to ignore. What unfolded here wasn't just a routine debate, it was a direct clash over trust, accountability, and the direction of the country. Sunak attempted to frame the Home Secretary's return as a matter of experience and stability, insisting the government's priority is cracking down on crime and strengthening border control. But that argument immediately ran into criticism over judgment, with Starmer challenging the decision to reappoint someone previously removed over a serious breach involving sensitive government information. As the exchange continued, the debate shifted from individual appointments to broader governance. Sunak leaned heavily on themes of economic responsibility, national security, and protecting the most vulnerable, repeatedly contrasting his government's approach with what he described as weakness from the opposition on crime and immigration. Starmer, however, kept pushing on consistency and integrity, questioning whether the government's actions match its public promises. Issues like non-dom tax status, funding decisions, and leadership credibility were brought into focus, turning the discussion into a wider argument about fairness and priorities. Sunak responded by defending his record during crisis periods, especially referencing COVID-era decisions, while arguing that difficult economic choices are necessary to restore stability. He also accused the opposition of political opportunism and inconsistency in their past positions. But the most striking part of the exchange was not just the policy disagreement, it was the tone. Both leaders repeatedly accused each other of saying one thing publicly and doing another privately, making this debate feel less like policy discussion and more like a battle over credibility itself. By the end, no clear consensus emerged, only a sharper divide. Sunak presented a message of stability and tough decisions, while Starmer pressed a narrative of accountability and political inconsistency. And that's what defines this moment, not just disagreement on policy, but a deeper struggle over who the public can actually trust to lead. The exchange continues with both leaders doubling down on their positions, and neither side showing any signs of backing down. The debate moves beyond individual decisions and becomes a broader political confrontation over leadership, credibility, and national direction. Sunak maintains his focus on governance priorities, repeatedly emphasizing law and order, border control, and economic stability. He presents his government as one making difficult but necessary choices, arguing that these decisions are aimed at long-term national strength rather than short-term political gain. He also continues to highlight achievements such as police recruitment and fiscal management, framing them as evidence of progress. Starmer, on the other hand, keeps returning to the question of trust. He challenges whether the government's actions align with its promises, pointing to controversial appointments, financial decisions, and policy inconsistencies. His approach is centered on accountability, questioning not just what decisions are made, but why and how they are justified. As the back and forth intensifies, interruptions and applause reflect the division in the chamber. Each side tries to land the final political blow, but instead the debate exposes deeper fault lines in British politics, between stability and scrutiny, experience and reform, authority and accountability. In the end, the session closes without resolution, but with a clear political message. The battle is not just over policies, but over public trust, and both leaders know that P.E.